Okay, so now we have the interpretation of Ibn al-Jazari. Who is Ibn al-Jazari and why is his interpretation, did I spell it right? Interpretation. Okay, my mom, rahmatullah alayha, she used to say, I'm the worst speller that she has ever known in her life. That's my mom's, rahmatullah alayha, shahada for me. So yeah, spelling has always been, for me, in the English spelling, has always been very difficult. So I have to look at words multiple times, and even then, spell check doesn't help, by the way, because spell check gives you multiple choices, and sometimes they all look similar. So I apologize if there are any spelling mistakes. I'd really love for any of you to point it out during class, after class, whenever. Okay, who is Ibn al-Jazari and why is his interpretation the top one and the most important one? Ibn al-Jazari is considered today the top scholar, period, of Qur'an and Qur'anic recitation and narrating anything related to pronouncing and writing the Qur'an. Okay, so when it comes to history of Qur'an, he is the top source in the oral history and written history. His book, An-Nashr, is considered the Bukhari of Qira'at. You know how Al-Bukhari is like the hadith source for the ilm al-hadith because it contains the most authentic of a hadith. Ibn al-Jazari's most famous book, An-Nashr, is to al-Qira'at, to the sciences of Al-Quran, to any scholar of Quran. It's considered as like al-Bukhari would be to the sciences of hadith. Anything mentioned in An-Nashr and confirmed by Ibn al-Jazari is considered Quran. Anything that's not in An-Nashr or mentioned by Ibn al-Jazari as not being Quran, then it's not Quran. So I stopped the video, sister, so you can come back. So anything and by Ibn al-Jazari, if he says this is something that's Quran, it's considered Quran. If it's not considered Quran. So his book of An-Nashr is considered like the line, the divide between what's accepted and not accepted in reciting the Quran, in qira'at, in everything to do with the transmission of Quran. So he has an opinion. His opinion is extremely valued. And his opinion is not his alone. Like if he was the only one saying the opinion, then although it's from Ibn al-Jazari, it might be, debated. But it's not his opinion alone. It's his and Imam al-Dani's and the majority of the scholars that came before him. So that's why it's the top interpretation. It's also the interpretation that I learned from my mashayikh, starting from when I was going through being the teacher training from Shaikha Khadeejah up until when I recited the Quran fully the first time to Sheikh Adil Abu Sha'ar. It's also Dr. Ayman Suwaid's interpretation after, and I hope Dr. Ayman Suwaid is well known to you. He's one of the top modern day scholars. So this interpretation, inshallah, I hope that you receive it as the most accurate and closest and accepted interpretation, because our whole course is going to be based on this interpretation. Okay, our understanding of what happened and what didn't happen is based on this, inshallah. Okay, we have about 15 minutes to maybe mention some of it. We might not go through all of it. And be ready to ask questions. So Ibn al-Jazari in his book An-Nashr, which I just mentioned, in part 1, I'm using the Nashr, the most recent edition, which was muhaqqaq, reviewed by Dr. Ayman Suwaid himself. So it comes in 5 different ajza parts, beautifully colored, with tashkil, excellent referencing. He worked on it for more than 25 years, I believe. So an extremely valuable version of An-Nashr, which refers to all the possible manuscripts that he could get a hold of, Dr. Ayman Suwaid. So this is in part 1 on page 160. Ibn al-Jazari says, I have been thinking and contemplating the meaning of the 7 ahruf for more than 30 years. Ibn Jazari has been thinking about for 30 years. We're talking about the topmost scholar we know of, human scholar, with the topmost that we know of in this science. And he has been thinking about for 30 years, which tells us this is not an easy topic. And then he says, until Allah has blessed me with the following interpretation, which may be correct. Okay, let me read you the Arabic language. It's just so much beautiful, to read it from the source. So if you don't know Arabic, please forgive me. I did my best in translating his language, but I want those who do know Arabic to just listen to the words and just absorb them. It's really easy, beautiful. So he says, وَلَا زِلْتُ أَسْتَشْكِلُ هَذَا الْحَدِيث. So he's talking about the hadith we just mentioned. وَأُفَكِّرُ فِيهِ وَأُمْعِنُ النَّظَرَ من نيف 30 سنة حتى فتح الله علي بما يمكن أن يكون صوابا إن شاء الله تعالى. Okay, so even he is not saying this is the interpretation. So we are by no ways confirming that this is the interpretation, because Ibn Jazari himself, he's saying this may be. But we're taking his opinion to be the top one because of all the other the reasons mentioned. Okay. So now he's going to say what they are. He's going to go from 1 through 7. This is so again, this is him numbering. He's saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is, I'm just copying the words he's using from An-Nashr. So he says 1, the difference in harakat or harakas, but not the meanings. So let's take a deep breath. So he's saying that these ahruf, or these differences, these 7 ahruf are, here's the first harf. It's talking about the difference in haraka or tashkil. These differences do not affect the meaning. So the words have the same meaning, although they're pronounced slightly differently, with difference between fatha or dhamma or kasra. Before I give the Arabic examples, let me tell you, this is similar in my mind to tomorrow, because it's not exactly, but that's the example that comes to mind. If you have a better example, I'd love for you to write it or for you to raise your hand, where it's the same word. So not lift and elevator. Lift and elevator are different words. We're talking about the same words, the same letters, but the letters are pronounced slightly differently. So that's the difference in harakas. And they mean the same thing. Tomato means tomorrow. Okay. Examples that he gives. He says, like the word al-bakhal and al-bukhl. That's true. Until, like, we have now qira'as. Again, we haven't said what qira'as are, but we have qira'as that pronounce the word al-bakhal, and other qira'as that pronounce the same word, al-bukhl, and they mean the same thing. Another example, yahsibu and yahsabu. So this is a difference in tashkil or harakas, but they mean the same thing. Are they also different in accents, dialects? He's not talking about it. He does not mention accents or dialects whatsoever. Ibn Jazari does not get into that. He says the first harf, or the first difference, is the difference in harakas that have no consequence in the meaning. Okay, that's number 1. Please stop me if I need to, if you need me to stop. Number 2, difference in harakas that do change the meaning. Off the top of my head, I can't think of something in English. Difference in harakas. So a same word in English, same letters, but if you change it a little bit, the meaning is different. Like maybe write and wrote, maybe, I don't know. Maybe that it's incomparable. Let me just give you the Arabic examples. So he's saying, for example, we have this ayah. فَتَلَقَّى آدَمُ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٍ. And the same ayah, in a different qira'ah, is recited فَتَلَقَّى آدَمَ مِنْ رَبِّهِ كَلِمَاتٌ. So here the difference is in آدَمُ and آدَمَ, and كَلِمَاتٍ and كَلِمَاتٌ. And these differences in harakat do change the meaning. The difference in meaning, inshallah, you can find it in the tafsir books. It's a slight difference, but it's a change in the meaning. Okay, so this is the second harf. The third harf. Okay, now he's leaving the harakas. Now he's talking about letters. And he's talking about the letter forms. Basically, remember the manuscript we looked at? Like how the letter val is written, or how the word kitabun, and how the ta and ba were just nabras with no dots. So that's the letter form. He's talking about the letter representation in writing. Okay, he's saying there's no difference in letter forms, but there is a change in meaning. So the letter forms, the representation on paper or manuscript is the same, but there's a difference in meaning. An example, please? He provides it. Example, tablu and tatlu. Notice in some recitations, they recited tablu, it's a ba. In other qira'as, that same word in that same ayah is tatlu with a ta. So again, what does he mean by there's no difference in letter forms? Remember, the Quran was written with no dots and no tashkil. So if you look at the word tablu and the word tatlu and remove all those dots and all those tashkil, they have the same letter representation. Two nabras, a squiggly and another squiggly, followed by a lam, waw, alif. Okay, another example, fatabayyanu. And that same word in the same ayah, in the same surah, in another qira'ah is fatathabbatu. And now notice, if you remove all those dots and all those tashkil, you have a fa, a squiggly, a squiggly, a squiggly, a squiggly, and then a waw alif. And those squigglies are the same. So that's what he means by they have the same letter forms, but they have different meanings. So that's the third harf. Now I think you're starting to understand that Ibn Jazari is saying that a harf is a difference, and he's talking about the multiple differences that exist in the Quran. So his point of view is the ahruf are the differences. And he's just saying these differences are, first of all, in tashkil, but don't affect the meaning, are in tashkil, but do affect the meaning, are in meaning, but they have the same letter representation, although the letters are pronounced differently. We'll get to number 4 and 5, maybe not tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm going to leave you like a total and utter cliffhanger. I apologize. I know this is so much, but maybe inshallah, if you start absorbing these 3 or 4, we can come back to the next class and be able to, inshallah, really enjoy the rest of the lesson. Okay, I see Brother Amin, you have your hand raised. So go ahead, please.
So just to review, Ibn al-Jazari, rahimahullah, he didn't take the ahruf to be like different self-contained styles or dialects or modes.
No, yeah, not at
Different
all.
kinds of
It's very,
differences.
yeah, he's not talking about, he doesn't even mention the word lahja or lisan or lugha, nothing. He says it's differences. It's differences, and he starts talking about the differences in tashkil that affect the meaning, don't affect the meaning, and now he's talking about the differences in meaning that have the same letter representation. Yeah, it's like, whoa, you know, this is, I didn't even think of it that way. It's a different angle completely. And by the way, he's not, the majority of scholars actually have the very similar interpretation or identical that came before him, basically. So he's not coming with something new. This is actually the majority of the opinion. For some reason,
So
I don't know why the other opinion, the second opinion, became more popular later on. Maybe it was easier to grasp. But again, this is the most, inshallah, the opinion we're going with. Go ahead.
So he believes that the singular writing that's in the Mushaf of Uthman radiallahu anhu, this encompasses
All the
all 7 ahruf, because the
exact.
ahruf are not like textual variants. They're
Yes.
just more what's added on top of it, which might be slightly variant.
Yes, in general. Inshallah, in the next slides, we will see that he does mention some variation. But in general, yes. Basically, him following Imam al-Dani and other scholars is the Masahif al-Uthmaniyya never eliminated the ahruf. All ahruf are preserved till today.
So what about certain instances in the qira'at where there might be like a I'm gonna use the word harf, but what I mean is like a harf fi nahu. Like it might have either added here and it's not in the other qira'ah.
Inshallah, we're getting there. Inshallah, we'll get that. We'll probably mention it. I'm so sorry, Wadia is going to die, but it has to be mentioned tomorrow, inshallah. So
It's okay.
yeah, so inshallah, we're getting there. Your questions will be answered, inshallah. It is included in 4, 5, 6, and 7, inshallah, in the rest of the ahruf he does mention, inshallah. Okay, Khadija has a question. Go ahead.
So here it says no difference in the letter forms, but a change in the meanings.
Yes.
Does tablu and tatlu mean the same thing?
No, they have a different meaning. Tablu means test, and tatlu means they come one after the next in the context of the ayah. The ayah is هنالك تبلو كل نفس ما أسلفت, and or هنالك تتلو كل نفس ما أسلفت. So tablu, every soul will be tested in what they previously did in dunya. Or tatlu as in like they recite their books or read their books. Wallahu a'lam. So different meanings. But they complement each other. There's no harf or these differences we're studying that kind of contradict. All the ahruf are complementary, even if they imply different meanings.
Okay, and when it says no difference in letter forms, do the letters have to look alike, or they have to be exactly the same?
Okay, remember how when we looked at that manuscript before we started talking about these topics and it was void of any dots or tashkil? Now look at these examples that I've colored for you and imagine these words with no dots at all and no tashkil.
Oh, yeah.
Tablu will be identical to tatlu in form, in how it's scribed. Fatabayyanu will be identical to fatathabbatu. So they have no difference in how they were written. They were scribed identical.
Oh, okay. Shukran.
Here's an exercise I encourage you to do. Write down the word fatabayyanu, but on purpose don't put any dots. And then write down the word fatathabbatu and on purpose don't put any dots. And look at them. They're identical. Yeah. So that means that they have no difference in letter form. They're written the same. It's the same word. It's not like it didn't need multiple writings. It's this one word, and it's recited in 2 different ways and different meanings. Now,
shukran.
Afwan. Okay, I think this is actually a really great place to stop, because I'm afraid if I presented all 7 ahruf, even if we had lots of time, it might start cluttering our brain because there's an overlap. So just please look at these 3 differences, look at the examples and absorb. I know some of you will like Google all night long the different ahruf and come to class with 100 million thousand questions. Right now, I don't encourage that. I do not encourage that. It'll cause you to be confused. When do I encourage that? By the end of this course, like by next week. Yes, inshallah, I hope that you'll be ready to listen and hear and research the other interpretations of the ahruf, because then this will be solid, the history of the Quran will be solid, how events, played will be solid in your understanding, and then inshallah you'll be ready for any other interpretations and how that might affect the interpretations of the timeline. Okay, yesterday I apologize. I had reading with my teacher up until past midnight, So I couldn't prepare the quiz last night, and then after Fajr, I had barely slept. So that's why I was late in making the quiz, not quiz, question. Right now, alhamdulillah, I don't have any appointments, so I'm gonna sit right now after class, prepare your homework, so it should be ready within the next hour or two, inshallah. So I apologize. It's gonna be like that pretty much every Monday. So I'm gonna, next Monday, hopefully have the questions ready before my appointment with my teacher, inshallah. Okay, let me see if there are any questions in the chat, and then we'll conclude. She will be forced to teach. Oh, Wadia is like, he's gonna kill me if I don't finish. Ma'lesh Wadia, inshallah, you can have 24 hours of patience, inshallah. Actually less, right? Because class is at 7:30. I don't have to. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Allah barak feekum. I'm really happy to be sitting with you to discussing this. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Okay, Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. The list, the WhatsApp group is there for discussions, inshallah, and questions. If you have any technical difficulty, I hope Brother Wadia, inshallah, will be able to help you through them. I'll try my best to follow that, inshallah, that no one is still, going in circles hunting for homework and whatnot. Jazakumullah khairan. Right now, I don't recommend a single book, honestly. It's because the topic of the history of the Quran are so, again, multitude of different opinions. And one book might have one opinion, and then they go on to the next stage in history and have another opinion. And that has just, over the years, caused people to be so confused because it doesn't link how things work together. So honestly, I don't have one book in English. But for Arabic, النشر, كتاب النشر. If you have that, or if you can, it's available readily online, it's in Arabic, that's the top recommendation, inshallah, for this course and for any course related to Quran or Tajweed. Jazakumullahu khairan, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Yeah, reading an-nashr is on my to-do list with a group, inshallah, sooner or later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.